Hey, welcome back. Today's video is a special Q&A celebrating 1K. We did it, you guys. So I'm going to be answering you guys' questions from the community tab, and there were a lot of questions. A lot more than I was expecting, but yeah. Let's get into it. The questions are grouped together, so I'm just going to answer them in the same way that they're grouped. Question 1 is, how often do you practice drawing, and do you have any art goals for this year? So I tend to draw between twice a week max and every other week minimum, and every other week is usually for a video, so at the minimum I'll draw for a video. I'd like to draw a lot more, but it's something that I have to lean into. I find that if I dive right into a new routine, things just don't work out the way that I want them to, at least for drawing. So I have to ease into it. And if I draw for a bit too long, then my brain just becomes mush anyways. So I have to balance things out carefully. But yes, maximum twice a week and minimum every 2 weeks. As for art goals this year, I'd say that I want to be able to refine my art style more because there are still some things that I'm not really liking about it as much. And I get inspired by so many different things that I see, and it just makes it hard for me to make a decision. So right about now, I'm kind of feeling like the artist that doesn't have an art style because things keep changing, which I don't think is a bad thing, but yeah, I'm just changing interest, I guess. It would be nice to be able to have 2 art styles that I could switch between, but for now, I think developing one is a good move. Another art goal that I have is to post more frequently, like more frequent art videos on YouTube, and I also want to make longer videos too, but I'm still getting the hang of just posting consistently with the schedule that I already have, but we'll see. Next question is actually like multiple questions, so how did you learn to do digital art? What do you recommend for beginners? How do you make your OCs? And what inspires your art style? The first question, how did you learn digital art? So I learned digital art and about digital art mainly from Instagram and YouTube. So the first time that I tried digital art was actually on the Procreate Pocket app, which is the phone version of Procreate. And the first drawing on there was atrocious, but I did draw traditionally first before anything else by looking at pictures and just trying to draw what I see. So those skills kind of transferred over to digital art a little bit, but mainly I learned most that I know about digital art through watching Ergo Josh's videos on YouTube, and he's an amazing artist. His art is gorgeous, and I feel like I learned a lot from him. I also would see on Pinterest little art tips and mini tutorials, and things like that would help me as well. So for what I recommend for beginners, I assume you mean both beginners getting into digital art as well as just beginner artists. So I'm going to combine my answers. I'd recommend basically doing what a lot of people are actually doing, which is looking up tutorials on YouTube and seeing what other drawing programs people use. I'd recommend personally trying some free programs like CRED or IBS Paint. And I for sure knew I wanted something that I could see and draw on directly, so I personally went with the iPad, but CRED uses a drawing tablet that you would plug into a computer. And then IBS, I think you can use on your phone as well. But those are some things I think are a good start to see if you like digital art. And in terms of drawing, I'd recommend just watching and trying to understand and practice and replicate what you see, and be observant. Being observant is a very important skill to have as an artist, so it's something that should be practiced very often. And I'd say another one is make sure you're drawing from life and learning how to draw from life, because doing that helps you learn the rules first, and then if you later down the line want to stylize things, you'll know how to bend the rules and how far you can go with bending those rules. My next tip is to basically try to pay attention to how other artists simplify things into simple shapes. That will help you see the bigger picture of whatever you're trying to draw, and it will be more broken down and easier for you to understand, and you'll start to look for shapes within the things that you're trying to draw as well, and it just makes things easier. So recap: research drawing tutorials, draw from life, practice being observant, check out free drawing programs, and also see how other artists simplify complex things. The next question is, what inspires my art style? Honestly, what inspires my art style is separate little things all combined into one. And like I said earlier, I get inspired by so many different things. For example, if an artist draws eyes a certain way, I might try to implement that into my own style, and I just kind of mix and match to see what I like. So it's pretty much trial and error until I find what I like. Yeah, I feel like I'm close to figuring that out, but I'm not quite there yet. The next question is, do I have a system of practicing? Do I go by the fundamentals one by one, or do I just mix everything up? Honestly, I'd say yes and no. I'm actually putting in a system for me to try. I know for a fact I've been forgetting to study head angles. I don't know why, but I'll kind of move around to different parts of the body and mix things up and learn those different things. But I'm currently looking at head angles, the upper body, shoulders, collarbone, chest, that kind of area. And then also hands a little bit. And then from there, I'll work my way down to learning how to do legs and feet, because I have issues with the placement of those. So yeah, I kind of mix things up. And again, I'm still kind of working on making myself more comfortable with drawing each week. So that includes practicing more each week. Next question is how to get over the hurdle of not feeling as creative and being frustrated with doing studies. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that studies aren't boring sometimes, but honestly, I feel like I can keep myself from getting bored by doing timed studies. So just timing yourself for 30 seconds to a few minutes, maybe even an hour, and that way you're not spending too much time on it, and you could take breaks in between to try to refresh your mind and do things outside of art that creatively stimulates you. Another thing you can try is, honestly, if you see a drawing that you really like, or something that's really pretty to you, I'd say go ahead and try to draw it. It may be interesting enough to make you want to do it, or at least start. Another one is, I'd say when you're trying to draw from reference, maybe you could put your own spin on it and change very minor details about it. That way you can be a bit more creatively stimulated by adding things. For example, clothes, flowers, jewelry, whatever interests you, and that won't confuse you from what you're studying or change what you're trying to study. And then that way you're not plainly trying to copy whatever you're looking at. The last tip I'd say is you could do one study and then draw what you want to draw, and then another study and go back and forth. I personally haven't tried this, but I believe it may be able to work. Could be something to try. I like this next question. So then it is, if I started drawing when I was a child, and was I encouraged to keep doing it? Yes, I did start drawing from a young age, and I've always been a little artist from when I started learning how to write. Once I started forming letters, I started drawing pretty much immediately after that, and my parents were pretty supportive of it. I mean, most kids draw or draw in school, and yeah, I remember most of my drawings in elementary school. I've pretty much been encouraged to always keep my creativity. Even my parents would sometimes doodle themselves, but they wouldn't call themselves artists, as well as my grandmother. And now that I'm thinking about it, my brothers would draw as well. So I guess it kind of makes sense why they supported me. And I think I'm the first to actually take a deep dive into it because of all of that encouragement, which is nice. All right, the next question is, would you do Procreate tutorials on OCs in the future? And yeah, I probably could do tutorials on that. I don't know how many that would work out to be, or if it would just be one big video or not. I definitely will have to think about what I'd say and how I'd want to explain things, but yeah, I might ask for you guys' help on that. The next question is, would you do tutorials on black hairstyles? Yes, that is something I want to do as well. I just want to make sure I can draw them correctly first before I try to make a tutorial on it, which is the case with most tutorials. You know, you want to make sure you know it well enough to explain it to others and demonstrate it. So yeah, I just don't want to confuse anybody or rush into it. Next, how do I use references in my pieces? Do I draw from imagination as well? For the imagination one, yes, I do draw from imagination as well. I don't always have a reference, or I'll have a reference just for like colors or something. But yeah, in that art burnout video I did with the close-up of Kyrie, I drew that sketch of her from imagination, and then I did a clean sketch over it. And then for how I use my references, I make sure to have references on the side for a pose or a certain look or vibe that I'm going for, or even just inspiration. But I don't follow references to a T anymore unless I'm doing a study of something and I'm practicing, or I'm just using it for the pose. How long have you been drawing digitally? Let's see, I've drawn digitally on and off between 2018 to 2023, so I can't say this has been the entire span. I've taken a lot of months off just because of art block and other things, but I'd say, to put a number on it, I'd say 3.5, 4 years. And this is the most serious that I've been about it than any other time before. This next one is, how do you get over art block? It kind of depends on what's causing your art block. Maybe you don't know what to draw or how to draw something, and maybe you're feeling burnout. Sometimes burnout and art block are used interchangeably, so I'm gonna assume you mean art block. Sometimes what I'll see people do is they'll try to push through it, basically with time sketching or drawing sessions. So let's say you force yourself to draw for like 3 minutes. Sometimes the chances are you'll want to continue drawing and make it look pretty or however you want. And then other times, like me, I don't like to push through it, so I literally will just stop and take a break. Sometimes the break is a day, sometimes it's a couple hours, and if it's been a day or two, I'll try to push through it then with the time session. But if it's really bad, then I'll just give myself space to do things outside of art that make me happy or creatively inspired. Sometimes I'll also look at people's art as well. And lastly, will you do tutorials on different hairstyles and face angles? Yes, I will be getting to that as soon as I can. I'm brushing up on face angles myself and learning a few more before I feel like I can explain it and show it. But yeah, tutorials take a lot of time and research, so bear with me. Also, I like to offset tutorials with drawing things for fun on YouTube, just for my own sanity. And yeah, I like doing tutorials and helping everybody the best that I can, but I also have to balance that to make sure I'm happy as well. Oh my gosh, my throat is like gone. I'm sorry if I sound like monotone, but thank you guys for all the questions. I really appreciate it. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of scared asking. I didn't know if you guys had any questions for me, but y'all came through, so thank you. Yeah, maybe in the future I could do another Q&A or something like that. But this is how the drawing turned out. My favorite one is the one in purple, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for 1K, and I'll see you in the next one.